The story so far.
The story so far. I'm thinking I can edit this into a collage of some kind.
This is not news.
Dang, just make that. Give me a...
I kind of like your down the news hole.
Down the news hole, the memory hole. It's an Orwell reference.
This is, of course, the March Anthology, the first anthology, officially from Redwood Voice.
Mm-hmm.
The story so far, it's all the work that's being done by Redwood Voice, specifically for local news.
Mm-hmm. Introduce yourself.
Ah, yes. We're professionals. I'm Persephone Rose.
What's your title?
I don't actually know for sure. I'm
executive producer.
I like that. It's fancy.
You always say that every time I say executive producer.
I am kind of like an ominous government face. You know? It's like I'm kind of the Redwood Voice shadow figure.
Right, yeah, that's true. Big sister.
Ooh,
there you go.
Big sister of Redwood Voice. That's scary.
And I'm Paul Critz, director of KFUG Community Radio.
Oh, someone gets a job description.
I had that, and you had to drive it. I've told you the job description.
Someone over there with his proper title.
I have several job descriptions.
Oh, yeah? Like
director, program director.
Herald of the Harbor.
General manager. Herald Bluetooth.
Warrior of the Five Rings. Spearman of the Northern Army.
Spearmint?
Spearman.
Oh, okay. Spearmint?
Redwood Voice has been constantly changing, constantly growing. Our team, it's all new folks.
It's good work. It's really, really good work. A lot of what they do is for our daily newscast on KFUG. It happens every day at noon. And those pieces get handed to Mike Thornton, our news director. Yes. They get broadcast on the news, then they get forgotten.
Yeah.
Because it's like disposable news.
There's not a internet net.
Exactly.
An internet.
Very good. Until this right now. That's what we're doing here today. It's important to note, when you're listening to this, you're not listening to news. These are expired news pieces, but they were done by...
And yet, some of them are ongoing.
Some of them are still ongoing, yeah, and we'll point those out, but they were done by the Redwood Voice Youth Media team. The standalone Redwood Voice content they generate, you can find on the YouTube channel. Again, this stuff was made for radio broadcast and was broadcast over the radio and then put in a folder somewhere.
Yeah.
And so
They're professional stuff.
We're going back through that folder, and we want to highlight kind of the journalistic aspect of what Redwood Voice does.
You know, their level of work's been so good. I was like looking behind my back on the 15th.
Were you? What do you mean? What for? Like,
I thought I was going to end up in like a Caesar situation. Like, we're big sister now.
So we've got a number of stories here to share. We're going to play them in their entirety. They're also going to contain, since we got them from Mike Thornton after they were incorporated into the newscast, they have his introductions.
Yes.
So the
pipes,
the gravelly voice at the beginning. It's not one of the Redwood Voice youth.
That's just little Timmy.
He's a heavy smoker. No. But the so
that's
we'll
actually
have
antithesis to our first piece.
I guess so. Yeah, that sets the stage for it, right?
Turncoats right there.
So you'll get the sort of the setup for each of the stories from Mike, because he made those for the newscast itself. But the first couple of pieces of clips we want to share have to do with Storm and tobacco and vaping and high school kids.
Yes. Now, what is Storm? We did a lot of deep digging, so that's going to be part of the piece. Mm-hmm. They have quite a long acronym.
Yeah.
And quite an ongoing mission. They tried going in front of the city council. Our larger piece goes into how that didn't go well, but you'll get kind of a taste for the general consensus. We also have a presentation to the Board of Supervisors. Yeah, so we're going to be playing a bit of that for you. And if you want to get even deeper into this, I think it's very much still ongoing news story, you can check that out on the Redwood Voice YouTube channel.
It was kind of an interesting experience, too. Just we won't get into the story about the kids having to go up in front of the adults who run the community and getting basically shot down.
The sad part, the lesson of getting involved with local government.
Right. So let's listen to these pieces.
Yes, let's get into the news.
At the February 8 Del Norte County Board of Supervisors meeting, Project Director at NorCal for Health, Amber Weir, discussed and proposed a tobacco retail license that would aid in stopping youth vaping. Weir was joined by youth activist group STORM, which stands for Standing Together and Overcoming Addiction with a Radical Movement, where they spoke on their observations and lived experiences with tobacco use in school. While there has been an abundance of education towards vaping and tobacco use, Weir and Storm are certain that a TRL could reduce the amount of youth partaking in it.
Just to reiterate, what are our kids saying? They're saying it tastes good, it's stress relief, it's normal, everybody's doing it, and it's easy to access. So what have we been doing over the last 20 years to curb this? Like I said in the beginning, I started with tobacco use prevention program with public health. We've been doing education for probably 20 years on tobacco use prevention. NCIDC does tobacco use prevention in our high schools. We have TUPE, tobacco use prevention education, that's been delivered in our high schools. We have healthcare systems like UIHS and Open Door Community Clinic, where every patient is screened for tobacco use. Education is given, cessation options are given. We even have the Department of Justice in on the action. So the Sheriff's Department had a DOJ grant, and our Crescent City Police Department is working on a Department of Justice grant on educating. So when you add all of these programs up on how much education is being delivered in our community, it's close to $1 million a year in education programs being spent to address this. Now, education is good, it's needed, but it hasn't been enough. So what more can we do?
Weir goes into detail regarding the provisions of the TRL and what could specifically combat the issues that are affecting the community's youth. From her and Storm's observational studies, they found that eliminating tobacco products' flavors and limiting the amount of retailers that sell these products would significantly address the youth vaping issue.
And that's where, as a member of the Tobacco Free Coalition and working with our youth, and coming from public health, we're recommending a tobacco retail license. Now, this is a tool that is a best practice tool from public health. It's used in over 209 other jurisdictions in California have implemented a tobacco retail license as a way to curb youth initiation. Now, tobacco retail licenses are unique in every community. You can tailor these to meet the needs of what your community wants and needs to address. So we worked on, since we met with Jerry, we actually worked on a matrix that kind of goes a little bit more into detail than what these slides shows. But generally, this matrix shows, what I want to highlight is the provisions that are being recommended by the Tobacco Free Coalition and by our youth STORM group. And then the data and statistics that are in here are supported by NorCal for Health. We are able to research. But the first column is the provision, what it is. We're suggesting 5 different provisions. Then the second column is actually what does that provision mean? And then how many communities have already passed something similar to this provision? Evidence for the effectiveness and why this provision is needed. And then local statistics. What is happening locally, but why would we want to ask for this provision? For those of you that may be listening and can't see this matrix, I'm happy to email it to anybody if they want it. But overall, it's talking about, as you heard from the youth, the eliminating the sale of flavored tobacco. From talking with our youth, that is the easiest step that would address the youth vaping issue. And as you heard, that's really what, from their observational studies, that's all the kids are doing is vaping and the vaping flavors. And then there's the social norm change. Talks about limiting products and placement on the advertising. So it's really common. There's 26 locations to get tobacco products in our community. I think there's maybe 12 locations that you can get a gallon of milk. So it's readily available for everyone and accessible. So what some locations do is cap. They just stop having any new retail stores for tobacco retail license. So they just put a cap on how many can apply. And so we're suggesting that you put a cap on retail licenses. You allow everybody that is selling it right now to continue selling it, but you don't allow more to sell. And you don't allow the transfer of the license to just go when a new owner owns the business. They have to reapply for the license, and then you base it on population. So 1 store per 2,500 people is what is normally suggested. Within this Crescent City limits, which feeds most of our population, we're at 4 stores per 2,500. So we have a lot more stores than other communities. So I just wanted to give you some suggestions and things to look at, to consider if the Board of Supervisors would be willing. We did a presentation to the City Council on January 10th. They voted 3-2 to bring this back and consider a tobacco retail license. And at that time, they suggested we come to you so that it is fair. So there isn't this imaginary line between Harding and Washington Street on when you can see or can't get access to flavors. So we're hoping that we can do this together and create parity.
After talking with local retailers, studying the outcomes of a public opinion poll, and observing the results of a 2018 report on 60 cities adopting their own TRLs, we saw a wave of support for the implementation of a TRL from business owners and community members alike.
And then this is implementation of comprehensive tobacco retail license. It's no cost to the taxpayer. It prevents illegal sales. It levels the playing field for all businesses. We did some interviews with businesses locally that were selling, and several of them, I was actually really surprised. They were happy to share with us. They do not want kids vaping either. They want to address this as well. If there's an ordinance that they all have to abide by, then it's fair instead of a voluntary option. So that way there's no competitive advantage between, again, Harding and Washington Street, or wherever that line is. There is, in 2018, the tobacco retail licensing report. There's, I think, 60 other cities and counties listed on this. I just pulled 3 of them to show the before and after adoption rates of youth initiation, so that we know that this works. It's been around for years. It's been tested, and is there community support? So we did a public opinion poll. I believe there were 86 in our community, and we had overwhelming support that, yes, they believe that you should pass policies to protect their youth from being targeted. And 92 to 97% felt that tobacco and nicotine products and advertisements should not be placed in kid-friendly locations so that they're not influencing our youth.
In contrast to their time proposing the TRL to the Crescent City Council at the January 10th meeting, Weir and Storm's presentation was well received at this one. No debate ensued amongst the Board of Supervisors, and only one question arose, which was answered by Storm members Sinai and Sienna.
I was hoping to ask the kids a question, because I ask my son this constantly, but he refuses to answer. We talk about the use of vaping products. Do you guys see cannabis as a significant issue on your campus also, and vaping as a pathway to that, or is it just as used as much as vaping tools?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a problem. I don't think it's more of a problem per se than vaping, because it's more noticeable odor-wise, and high-wise. With vaping, you can't really tell. If anything, the smell of the vapes, because the flavors smell like fruits, they kind of blend in with perfume. So it's different.
Yeah, and I cannot confirm or deny that vaping is a passage to using cannabis or not. I will say there is definitely cannabis use in the high school, as I do also smell that in the bathrooms occasionally. But as Sine was saying, it's a much more pungent smell, and it lingers a lot longer than the flavors with vapes.
The board was more receptive and less antagonistic towards Storm and their cause, as opposed to half of the city council, who almost dismissed the continuation of this discussion altogether. With the board's support and willingness to work with Weir, the prospects of a tobacco retail license coming to fruition are starting to look more promising.
So I think direction to staff would be, actually I had some discussion about this with Neil, and we talked about business licenses in general. We don't have a business license in the county, and that may be something that we want to look into along with this. But I think maybe Joel's probably going to have to be involved, since it's an ordinance. Neil's going to have to be involved, and then probably the 2x2 with the city to make sure that we stay in line with what they're doing. And of course, Amber, I'm sure, will be available to meet along with that group. So that's what I'd like to see happen.
I would just suggest maybe having a goal of 2 meetings from now, 3 meetings from now, so we know what our timeline is.
Yeah, I would think we're. Is the city bringing something back at their next meeting?
I've been told that the tentative date for this to be coming back is the March, is that 8th, whatever, the first Monday in March?
Yeah, so I would think by the end of March or by maybe the second meeting in March, we could get together with them. And if we're going in that direction, if it looks like that's a direction we can take, then we maybe bring something back at that time. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, I think it does.
By presenting their observation and experiences to both the City Council and Board of Supervisors, it shows the community that Storm is committed to making a difference in the lives of the youth when it comes to their health. KFUG will continue to update on their advocacy towards the implementation of a TRL and the steps they will take next. This is Monique Camarena with KFUG News.
You're listening to KFUG Community News.
As a young person in Del Norte, I have seen that vaping is an issue affecting other young people. And I'm not the only one to notice this. A group of Del Norte High School students, part of the organization STORM, which stands for Standing Together and Overcoming Addiction with a Radical Movement, led by the NorCal for Health Project Director Amanda Weir, went to the City Council meeting on Monday, January 10th, asking them to help with stopping vaping issues hurting our fellow teens. STORM told the council about their experiences with vaping and to ask the city to implement a tobacco retail license, especially one that would ban flavored vape products or limit the places where youth could see these products, with some of the members giving personal stories of their family's experiences and some sharing more overall experiences that the youth faced. When the members of STORM were giving their presentations and sharing their stories, some members had brought up that it was impossible to use the restroom during their breaks, and Councilmember Smith said,
I'm very, very concerned that it's that big of a problem at Del Norte County High School where all the kids go to. And the reason I'm concerned is because obviously the staff isn't doing anything about it. That's my concern, is where's the staff? Where's the staff when this is going on in the bathrooms?
What would you want the school to do? The current administration is already busy enough dealing with what they already have to do, and even if they hired new people for this, it would cause outrage in a second. Think about it. If the school hired people just to watch their kids inside the bathroom, every single parent would be calling to complain about the invasion of privacy going on at the school. And if they are outside the room, it would be impossible to catch anyone vaping since it's so easy to hide. It's slightly larger than a USB. You can hide it in a glove, a pocket, a sleeve, even in your backpack. In order for the school to be able to catch these vapes, there would be a huge price to pay in the privacy of students, and also a price to pay on the taxpayers for the school to be able to afford the new monitoring system. And on top of that, no matter what the school put in place, the students could still have their vapes. The students don't buy the vapes at the school, and the ones that smoke their friends' vapes can just take their friend off campus and do it that way. When the meeting was going on, I decided to contact youth I knew who vaped and try to figure out what their experience with vaping is. None of them wanted to share their names, but I'll let you know what they told me. I asked all of them if they use nicotine vapes or something else, and if they were flavored. All but one told me they use nicotine vapes, and every single one told me that they have used only flavored vapes. One of them told me, yes, the flavored vapes are the only ones people get. They're targeted at teenagers. Everyone knows it's bad. It's just the mentality. When the youth themselves are saying that they only use the flavored vapes, it's something we should look into. Greenow and Smith also said,
Us as a local government, it's not our job to parent these kids.
I agree.
It's their parents' job.
I agree.
That's all I have on this. Thank you.
And I'll just kind of piggyback off that. It really feels like we're going to try and parent parents by limiting their choices.
But it ignores where most of the students are getting their vapes. Their friends. When talking to these people who vaped, some of them told me that they didn't want their name attached just because they were worried about their parents finding out. Because their parents didn't already know about it. So if the parents don't know, it's not something the parents know that they have to fix. I also asked how their friends who did buy their vapes got them. I was told that some of them did buy them in town, and while this wasn't all of them, it's something to consider, especially since one of the store owners said in the meeting,
"The state can pull my license if I sell underage."
But someone's still selling to the youth, so current California licenses don't completely stop these sales from happening. After the presentation, when the board was discussing if they should do anything, Councilmember Inscore had this to say.
Does big tobacco have the right to try to make money in our community? And if you guys don't see it that way, I'll respect your opinions. But the bottom line is you're defending the right for big business to make money at the expense of the health of our citizens. And we know that. There's no doubt that that's what they're doing. They're making billions of dollars at the cost of our health.
At the end of the discussion, the council agreed to discuss this further at a later meeting. The part of the meeting talking about vapes was actually very interesting to listen to, especially listening to all the different council members' opinions on it and all the public comments that were coming into the council. If you have free time, I'd recommend people skim through and watch part of the video. It's up on the City of Crescent City, California's YouTube page, saying that it was streamed live on January 10th, 2022. I'll finish this off by saying one last thing. People often say that the youth are our future, and right now, some of the youth are telling you that vaping is a problem and that it's hurting their future. Maybe we should listen to them and see what's going on.
Biting commentary from Grant there at the end, and speaking of which, some more commentary. Reviews, in fact. Joined by Monique Camarena. This is Grant Monique's movie reviews of 2021 top 6 movies. What do you think is going to be on there?
Oh, wow. 2021? What came out in 2021? I don't even remember. I don't remember. It's the pandemic. I haven't gone.
Dune.
Was Dune? See, I thought Dune, but then I was going, was that last year? That's where
Actually, I got to tell you, scrolling through the article, I know none of these.
You can walk through. Camarena walks through.
Camarena loose cannon.
As kind of reward, you can also do pieces that you get to chime off and share your opinion and be a pundit or a movie review.
You could have fun with media.
I know, huh? Go figure. So yeah, this is Grant and Monique and their movie reviews of some of what they consider to be the best movies of 2021.
Let's give it a listen.
2021 was no exception to being a year packed with jaw-dropping, heart-wrenching, action-packed, and thought-provoking movies. Here are 6 of our top movies from the past year.
I don't know why you came all the way up here. There's nothing left.
There are people out there. People worth saving.
One anticipated film at the beginning of this year was A Quiet Place Part 2. Taking place seconds after the events of Part 1, Evelyn Abbott, played by Emily Blunt, and her 3 kids desert their compromised home to travel outside, where the smallest sound can leave them the most vulnerable. In a flashback at the start of the movie, we learn that the ultrasonic hearing monsters who brought the apocalypse are actually from space, and they cannot swim, which finally gave the humans an advantage. Evelyn's daughter Regan, played by Millicent Simmons, discovered there was a possibility that people were taking refuge on an island just off the New York coast. The last thing her mother wanted was to lose another family member, but Regan took the initiative to make the journey to find secure shelter. Evelyn's fear for her children's safety played a big part in their family's growth as they learned to believe in each other's capabilities. With Regan being deaf, the son Marcus being easily frightened, and Evelyn having to keep her newborn healthy and quiet, each member finds a way to overcome their fears and disabilities in order to save each other's lives by the end. This movie in a way portrays what every parent might be feeling during the pandemic. Extra precautions, know-how of the outside world, and possessing skills of their own showed Evelyn that the kids are alright. This sequel did a great job of expanding this quiet but violent world, and left watchers hungry for part 3. If you prefer watching a family in a horror setting rather than a horror movie with a family in it, the A Quiet Place movies have an amazing story to dive into.
2021 saw the next installment in Michael Myers' killing spree in Halloween Kills. The story has some major holes, but the message is a little more solid. Starting off right where the 2018 movie ended, it's revealed that Michael Myers did survive the house fire. Halloween Kills is split between two parts, Michael's journey to his childhood home, and the town coming together to form a mob to hunt Myers down. Most of the issues with the story happen because of the message it is trying to send. In the middle of the movie, there's this long scene where the town hunts down some guy who they think is Michael, despite evidence to the contrary, eventually killing him. This scene and the surrounding ones tries to paint a picture that people need to think for themselves and not just follow the group. That one needs to see for themselves the world around them before making decisions. Also, at the same time, the movie discourages lone wolf behavior, with many fight scenes involving Michael being those where one person decides that they're enough to take down Myers, and if you know him well enough, you know that's not really gonna work. The only time in the movie where people succeed is at the end of the movie, when a group of people come together, there's confirmation that it's Michael Myers, and then they take action. Of course, he doesn't stay down for good, since every movie now has to set up for the sequel, and this is no different. The last 5 minutes are spent showing that Michael hasn't stayed down for good, and they'll return in the next movie, Halloween Ends.
Tonight the bloodline ends forever. Kill them all.
This is an extermination. They're picking my family off one by one. Only together can we stand a chance.
The 2021 reboot of Dune brought a sense of scale and epicness I didn't see in the other films I watched this year. And even though I didn't exactly understand what was going on until my second viewing, the show-stopping visuals and acting balance with the fast-paced plot. Dune is a sci-fi adventure filled with action, drama, suspense, and betrayal. In the year 10191, the planets of the House Atreides and House Harkonnen are mortal enemies that serve the Imperial Emperor from House Camarena. When Atreides becomes responsible for overlooking the manufacturing of spice on the planet Arrakis, Baron Vladimir Harkonnen orders the sabotage of their operation and annihilation of the royal family. It's up to Duke Leto's son, Paul Atreides, who's played by Timothée Chalamet, to form a relationship with the Arrakis people and save their worlds. Everything like the flawless cinematography, booming score by Hans Zimmer, daunting spaceships, the fear you feel from the giant sandworm approaching, and the performance each actor brings to their character all make this a very unique blockbuster.
The final installment in Daniel Craig's run as James Bond, titled No Time to Die, released in 2021, with some parts of the movie being great and other parts not so much. I will spoil the movie, so I'm giving a warning right here. Throughout the movie, it's clear that they haven't forgotten about their previous ones, with Vesper's grave being used as a starting point for the conflict between Bond and Madeline Swan. Felix Leiter and Blofeld also returned to play important roles in Bond's conflict with Safin, with both meeting their ends in the arms of James. While the villain Safin, played by Rami Malek, can leave many desiring more, the movie makes up for it with Bond's relationship with Madeline Swan and her daughter. Throughout the movie, it's slowly revealed that Swan's daughter also happens to be Bond's, and while this can bring up some questions on how it happened due to the Chief's destruction of Bond's parts in Casino Royale, it can be easily overlooked in order to experience the softer side to Craig's Bond. His new daughter is also a huge reason Bond sacrifices himself at the end of the movie. With the sacrifice, the audience is left feeling the pain experienced alongside Madeline Swan at his death. No Time to Die is the dramatic send-off to the story started in Casino Royale all the way back in 2006.
Stop the clock. Take time out. Time to regroup before you lose the battle.
Lin-Manuel Miranda's film adaptation of the musical Tick, Tick, Boom was arguably one of the best musical movies of this year, next to West Side Story and In the Heights. His direction helped to portray all the highs and lows of the late John Larson's life. Tick, Tick, Boom is a pop-rock autobiography of Jonathan Larson's life and work on writing his newest musical, Superbia. John's legacy would live on through his next musical, Rent, but before that, he would face many struggles leading up to his 30th birthday. Before he hit the big 3-0, he had to compose the most vital song to Superbia, hire musicians for its workshop, support his friends who were threatened by HIV, and give an answer to his girlfriend if he wanted to move away with her. The story shows how his commitment to this project impacts his relationship, friendships, and time to think about other important things. Like in every other role he's played, Andrew Garfield brings his all to resembling a real figure like Larson through his mannerisms and even style of singing. Garfield was handpicked by Miranda for this role, well, so he learned how to sing in just a year in preparation. From what musical fans have seen from this year's adaptations, creating a movie from a stage production has the potential to be executed very well with the right cast and crew. And Tick Tick Boom was a perfect example of an adaptation done right.
DC's new The Suicide Squad, directed by James Gunn, showcases DC learning an important lesson, that if you're working in a creative medium, give the creative people some control. If you compare David Ayer's Suicide Squad to James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, you'll see a huge difference between the movie. You know, part of it's because of different stories, but the directors of both movies admit that the first movie, directed by David Ayer, would have been much better if not for DC's meddling. James Gunn actually thanked David Ayer on Twitter, saying that without the troubles faced with Ayer in the first movie, Gunn's version of The Suicide Squad would have been a lot harder to make. You also see this change in DC's ways with the other movie of this year, Zack Snyder's Justice League. This movie gave us a huge opportunity to compare what would happen when the director has full control over the movie compared to when the studio gets to decide what happens. When comparing the two, there's still plenty of flaws in both versions, but Snyder's original vision is the better of the two, as long as you're okay with the extra 2 hours. My favorite part of the Snyder Cut, as fans call it, is the addition of Cyborg's story. In the original, Cyborg felt like he had a lot of missed potential, and luckily Snyder was able to give him more screen time in this newer version. While Snyder's version of this universe won't continue, I do recommend people wanting to get into the DC universe watch Zack Snyder's version over the studios.
Ah, Agent Camarena. Loose cannon on the force.
She's a hot dog.
You know, she's very new, and yet she has been busting out some hard-hitting journalism.
Yeah, no, actually, yeah, and doing stuff. There was with the first things that she had to do for Mike and the news was to write a piece on Fortuna and their attempt to make all homeless people move on.
And she is essentially Redwood Voice's writer. She is consistently putting her stories as articles up on the website, redwoodvoice.org, by the way.
Yes, check it out.
You can find all of these that we're listing, if I can only remember to post them.
and yeah, there have been a couple of pieces too that are on the website that like she wrote the script for and then hands out the voicing to Sebastian.
I believe she's doing that with the Picket. She's fully in charge of the script and then goes on to production.
Yeah. So yeah, she's kind of becoming the lead writer, I guess, too here, which is cool. Yeah.
That is exciting.
So this first piece from the Fortuna City Ordinance and Anti-Homeless Ordinance, because they're the friendly city they bill themselves as. And then after that, one of the first assignments we sent Monique out on, and that was to go cover the point in time count.
Double feature on people in need.
All right, let's check it out. The work of Monique Camarena for Redwood Voice.
Let's listen.
On December 6th, the Fortuna City Council passed an ordinance that would criminalize camping throughout most of the city. Officials say it's a much-needed remedy to problems caused by unhoused residents, but the American Civil Liberties Union of Northern California says the proposed regulations are both illegal and cruel. The ordinance would make it a misdemeanor for any person to camp, occupy camp facilities, or use camp paraphernalia in residential and commercial zones that cover the majority of the city's jurisdiction. It would criminalize camping in any public place between the hours of 6 a.m. and 10 p.m., plus the hours between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., unless there are no sleeping spaces practically available in any shelter or if there does not exist any viable alternative to sleeping in a public space. At the December 6th council meeting, City Council members Mike Johnson and Jeremy Stanfield said they hope the ordinance has teeth to deal with people who have been sleeping in front of businesses and in other public spaces. City Council member Mike Losey agreed, saying, "I think our citizens are just going to relish being able to call in and report some of these violations and then see action taken to stop some of this." The Fortuna City Council conducted a second reading of the proposed ordinance and again voted unanimously to implement it. The new anti-camping laws will take effect on January 19th. As first reported by the Times Standard, City Attorney Ryan Plotz crafted the ordinance with input from Fortuna Police Chief Casey Day to address the complaints about the local homelessness population while attempting to navigate the terms of the landmark 2018 Martin v. Boise ruling in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 9th District. In that case, the Ninth Circuit panel found that it's unconstitutional to charge criminal penalties for sitting, sleeping, or lying outside on public property for homeless individuals who cannot obtain shelter. The Eighth Amendment bars punishing a person for lacking the means to live out the universal and unavoidable consequences of being human, the court found. Day said his department's approach will begin with a soft launch of the ordinance, offering education and literature to the city's unhoused offenders while working with partner organizations. Even with habitual offenders, those who refuse to adhere to the city's ordinance and refuse help, the department plans to issue some kind of warning citation before charging them with a crime. Mike Losey asked whether his officers will make some effort to determine whether there are beds available in Eureka, say at the homeless shelter. Day said it would be their overarching goal to provide that type of assistance. In the event that they find someone open-minded and seeking help, he said, we really do try to facilitate that by making those phone calls or even, in the past practice, arranging transportation to those facilities. The city of Fortuna does not have any homeless shelters. However, in interviews with the Outpost, city manager Merritt Perry and Plotz said officers have offered to drive people to shelters in Eureka and Arcata. The decision has caused many cities across the western United States, including Eureka, to redraft their own anti-camping ordinances. It's also left a good deal of confusion in its wake as cities grapple with the lack of specifics in the ruling. Plotz said courts have struggled to interpret the language in the Boise decision for not being specific enough to provide real guidance. Fortuna's ordinance bans camp paraphernalia, which it says includes but is not limited to tents or tent-like structures, cots, hammocks, personal cooking facilities, and similar equipment. The definition explicitly excludes blankets, sleeping bags, or bedrolls. A lot will be left up to individual officers' discretion, he said. The Boise decision doesn't specify a distance in terms of what's considered available or not, Plotz said in a phone interview. It's one of the areas that Boise has received some criticism from the League of California Cities for not providing that type of detailed guidance. Perry told the Outpost that Fortuna approaches the issue of homelessness regionally. When Fortuna recently received $400,000 in CARES Act funding to address homelessness, it wound up giving the money away. They made an agreement with the city of Eureka to put half of that towards their Uplift program and put the other half towards Arcata House. So we'll find a way to get people to where there is shelter, assuming they're willing to go, he added. At the December 6 meeting, Plotz told the council that the Fortuna Police Department has largely stopped criminal enforcement of its anti-camping regulations as a result of the Boise case, and residents have noticed an uptick in the number of people building temporary shelters and lying in front of businesses on Main Street. The aim of the Martin versus Boise case was to prevent cities from criminalizing sitting, sleeping, or lying on public property, says Plotz. It does not speak to the larger issue of camping and the things that come with, including the erection of temporary shelters. The ACLU of Northern California disagrees with Plotz's assessment. In a statement sent to the Outpost last week, the organization says, the Fortuna City attorneys claim that focusing on camping rather than sleeping makes their ordinance legal is false and misrepresents Martin versus Boise. It covers the unavoidable consequences of being human, which includes the need for shelter, cooking, and having some personal possessions available. Additionally, the suggestion from one councilman that residents of Fortuna will relish calling in to report unhoused people attempting to survive outdoors suggests a concerning lack of empathy for the plight of unhoused people. They said this ordinance represents a needed update to regulations in the friendly city. At the public meeting 2 weeks ago, he stated, I really feel strongly for that public morale and health and safety of the community, that this revision to the municipal code is exactly what our community needs. For KFUG News, Monique, Camarena. You're listening to KFUG Community News.
KFUG's Monique Camarena recently attended Del Norte County's Point in Time Count outreach event. Monique brings us an important story about the unsheltered people in our community and how both government and nonprofit service providers are trying to address their needs.
On January 26, Del Norte County conducted Crescent City's point-in-time count at the Recreation Department on 1005 H Street. While the annual point-in-time count is essentially a survey of sheltered and unsheltered people experiencing homelessness on a single day, it's also an event where the homeless population can receive food, items for the harsh weather ahead, as well as services and resources from community partners. It was Housing Services Manager Roy Jackson's first year spearheading this event. He hopes to get an accurate count so that there's proper funding to provide these services.
We are surveying those that are sheltered and unsheltered, and to try to get a better understanding of the people we're serving, as well as advocate for more resources within our community. Basically, the count works as we approach those experiencing homeless with a survey. It's a 3-page survey. It takes about 5 minutes, and we gather that information, and then we take that information on a hard copy paper and upload it into a County Nest app, web-based app, and it collects all that data for us. And so then we can then pass that on to our regional COC, and it goes to HUD, and HUD will get that information too. And HUD's a big funder of some of the programs that we provide. Our funding from the state and our regional COC is directly related to the amount of people that are experiencing homelessness within your community, and so it directly affects the funding. The more people in your county that come up on the count, the more funding that you get to provide services. COVID's really taken a toll on our county when it comes to staff. We've had a lot of people retire. We have a lot of people out. We've had a kind of recent COVID spike, so there's a lot of folks out, and it's just it's been difficult. So we rally in what we have available, and we're trying to do the best job we can to get a good, accurate count.
After the point-in-time count in town, Jackson said he's heading to the Department of Health and Human Services, Klamath, Fort Dick, Smith River, and the Hyuchi and Gasky areas to survey the unhoused there. Many local service providers and organizations gather at these counts in order to learn what they need. Director of Homeless Services and founder of Del Norte Mission Possible, Daphne Cortez-Lambert, is one of Del Norte's key contributors to finding a solution to the homeless crisis.
We do all kinds of things. We really like to empower those that we serve by listening to what the unhoused need and having them actively have a voice in collaborative solutions. We also love to partner with all the agencies that are in our community that are trying to make progress forwards to deal with solutions for homelessness. We currently run a women's transitional home. We also do outreach on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tuesdays, we're part of the mobile shower outreach, and we do hospitality, case management, all kinds of different things. And Thursdays, we take a little trailer and we go around and give out things that people need to survive at 3 different locations. While we're doing that, we build relationships and do a lot of case management. We also are just starting a vaccination in partnership with Open Door and Public Health. And what that is removing barriers for those who are struggling with homelessness and are really just scared about vaccinations and aren't quite getting the facts. So we offer a $20 incentive to educate them, to give them facts, and then a $50 incentive if they decide to get vaccinated. And so that's just a bit of what we do. I hope to see even more collaboration throughout the community. I hope to see our shelter, a 52-bed shelter, come into reality. I hope to see more permanent housing. I hope to see the people who are our most valuable untapped resource, which are the unhoused. I hope to see their gifts and talents being used to make our community healthy.
By collaborating with Mission Possible, Public Health is offering COVID-19 vaccine education during these events that help the homeless. Nurses with Public Health found great success in vaccinating those who came.
For the homeless, on Tuesdays we've been meeting with Mission Possible and then pairing with Open Door to provide education at the showers at Open Door on Tuesdays. And so, and then we offer the vaccines. We offer education at that time. So that's been really successful. And I think a big part is, again, you got to meet the community where their needs are and where they're at. It's very hard in rural areas to reach out to people who are homeless, or I mean, it's in any place it can be difficult. So in these different kinds of events, it's nice to be able to pair and be able to provide that. There has been a lot of patients that I've had say that they are really happy that they were able to have it be offered to them, and that it was so much easier than they thought it would be to just get it. So that's our goal, is to get it to people. We definitely would love to see the hospitalization. As long as hospitalization rate is low, then I mean, that's our huge part right now. So it's really fight the fire first and then continue on, and we'll see where we're at.
Kim Spear, who was homeless for 10 years, unfolds why there are so many having to experience this life in Del Norte by volunteering with Mission Possible and seeing the results of the survey.
I heard about Mission Possible, and I talked to Daphne, and I've been staying there for 5 months now, and she's helped me get into a place, you know. Like I said, I've been homeless for 10 years, and she's helped me immensely, you know. Mission Possible has, and I do volunteering with outreach and stuff, because I've been one of the homeless, so it's really neat to be able to give back. I'm starting to feel like a real human being again, but doing the volunteer work and helping all the other homeless people too, I know them all, you know. I mean, I've lived amongst them. They're a lot of them my friends, and a lot of it's because of COVID, and a lot of it is because there's just not jobs available. And then homeless people also get judged. You know, people see them and they say, oh, look at that person, you know, and they judge them. And it could be somebody that had a really good job or something before, or an education. It's just down on their luck, and they don't want to hand out, they want to hand up.
Rick Jones, who has also experienced the hardships of being homeless for 10 years, relays that one of the most important things they could be provided with is love.
As Ray said, we're burnt on the homeless people. It's hard for us to keep up with them. Not all homeless people are bad. You know, we have that bad rep. Homeless people are trashy, thieves, drug addicts. Well, a lot of them are, but the reason for some of that is they're broken. Their life has been, something bad happened to them, and they just want to keep their mind clouded, so they don't have to think about society, and that's why they go out the streets, because they don't want to do the rules in society, and they're broke, and they just don't know what to do, so they run out and live on the streets, because some are so bitter they don't want to be friendly with no one. About love, it's a challenge to me, to see them smile, get some of that bitter hate out of them. That's a hard job.
While the Point in Time survey is designed to count the houseless population in our community, it would do us well to remember that the unsheltered are people with broken souls and unfortunate pasts, and not just statistics. This is Monique Camarena with KFUG News.
The Point in Time account. At this point in time, we're celebrating some of our newest reporters while remembering all our old ones. This next one comes from an old Redwood Voice reporter on a slowly growing issue, because back then it was just all in the grant phases, all the fun stuff where you had to wait for things to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Oliver Corcovelos on The Promise Neighborhood.
And I believe this story isn't about, like, we had one from another person in Redwood Voice, a previous iteration that set up, it was interviews about the grant and the grant process, and then this story specifically is when they received the grant. So Oliver, who's gone on to work elsewhere and do other things, because
mightier missions.
Exactly. So, but did great work while he was working with us too.
Yeah, let's give it a listen.
On Tuesday, October 12th, the Yurok Tribe and the True North Organizing Network, as well as representatives from the Del Norte Unified School District, the Northern California Indian Development Council, and other partner organizations, hosted a virtual event to celebrate the recent award of a Promise Neighborhoods grant, which will create a cradle to college and career pathway serving all kids and families in tribal lands and adjacent Del Norte County.
Mr. Jim McQuillan, Director of the Yurok Tribe's Education Department, if you could give us an overview of the Klamath Promise Project.
Ayakui. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very honored that the Yurok Tribe is the lead administrative agency for the Promise Neighborhood grant application that we were just awarded. A real team effort with the community partnerships and a few people on this meeting today. and walk out to all of you. This is a very exciting week. It happens to be Indigenous Peoples Week, also Indigenous Peoples Day yesterday, and the whole week. What a fitting time to make this announcement with these new resources for our entire community here in Del Norte and all over the North Coast here. The Promise Neighborhood Grant. And it's a partnership with 17 partners altogether here in Del Norte County, from Northern California Indian Development Council, the Yurok Tribe, Del Norte County Office of Ed, and Del Norte Unified School District. Many partners, Del Norte Child Care Council, Del Norte First Five, several partners in this effort will share in these resources to assist our families and children from what they call cradle to career opportunities and supporting the little ones from 0 to 5 with reading and school readiness, and filling those gaps where a lot of our agencies aren't able to cover, and sharing ideas and resources. There are some wonderful, wonderful resources that some partners are using and not all partners are using. We'll be able to share those wonderful strategies with each other with this opportunity. Also, for the upper graders, giving support to our K-12 students, where the district has identified holes in some of the resources, and this grant will help try to fill those holes in resources, so we have additional support to our students K through 12. And then CTE, career technical education. We know not all kids will be going to college, and we continue to need plumbers and heavy equipment operators and all those career technical certificates that helping our kids go to work and get those opportunities to help us out. I can barely change my oil on my car. We need those mechanics and body and fender people, and this grant will help support career technical education areas. So very excited about this. And the Yurok Tribe, being the largest tribe in the state of California, will be the lead to share these resources. Yes, there are only 7 selected throughout the nation. We're the only tribal program selected out of the 7. Very competitive process, and we're very excited and honored with our grant writing team from the True North Organizing Network. Very significant partner in this process. We're very honored today. Walk Thou from the Yurok Tribe, Walk Thou.
The U.S. Department of Education recently announced that the Yurok Tribe will receive $30 million to administer this 5-year cooperative undertaking. It was one of only 7 awarded in the nation, and the only one led by a tribe. The Klamath Promise Initiative brings together tribes, schools, community-based organizations, institutes of higher education, local government, and parent and resident groups to improve educational, health, and developmental outcomes for all children by building a continuum of solutions centered and around great schools. Funds will be used to build sustainable supports, services, and programs that will help local children progress toward a satisfying professional career. In addition to the Yurok Tribe and the True North Organizing Network, participating organizations and agencies include Del Norte Unified School District, Del Norte County Office of Education, Del Norte Child Care Council, First Five Del Norte, Northern California Indian Development Council, RX Safe Del Norte Coalition, Gateway Education, California Center for Rural Policy, Family Resource Center of the Redwoods, and College of the Redwoods Del Norte campus. And from the Redwood Voice side of things, I'm Oliver Corcovelos.
Boy, that neighborhood sure was promised.
It was promised a lot, and it looks like it's going to
deliver. Big promises.
Yeah, big promises, and it looks like they'll be able to keep some of those promises. That's a great windfall for the people of Klamath.
Certainly exciting. Mm-hmm. Up next, we have a reporter from the shadows, one we've only heard of in production so far, Sebastian Monroe. Tackling the Houseless vaccination effort going on in Del Norte County, specifically led by Daphne Cortez-Lambert. Very impressive program they've got going on.
Oh man, yeah. Mission Possible. Mission Possible is one of those. It's really
Mission Possible, I'll say.
Yeah. They're making it possible. That's what's awesome. They what is really along with Our Daily Bread Ministries is really the two nonprofits who are right at the front line of dealing with homelessness, houselessness in Del Norte County, and caring for the folks who are less fortunate, or for whatever reasons living in the bushes and in the rain. Okay, so Mission Possible is hosting these houseless vaccination events, and they do 2 a week, which is amazing. There's all kinds of places.
Busy weeks.
Busy weeks. And if you get the 2 vaccination events, and I believe Sebastian goes into this, is one's Tuesdays at Open Door, and then Thursdays at the Park City Superette right up the street from us. And it's if you go there, everything's jumping. There's people all over. Mission Possible they have food, they've got waters, the showers, the portable showers are there, and I believe that's a county thing.
That's pretty sick. That's like the thing the truck carries around, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like 2 showers, and they give out clothes, and in the center of all of this action, vaccinations, clothing, food, getting in touch with services, it's Daphne. Good stuff happening there. Anything that we can do to help Daphne and Mission Possible, I'm very happy to do. And Sebastian did this piece in which we both went out and filmed some stuff, and then he wrote and recorded this about specifically about the houseless vaccine events that are happening. I believe this one is just the Open Door, and then there was an update done later on that included the Park City Superette. So
excellent.
It's good work.
Let's give a listen to Sebastian and community leader Daphne Cortez-Lambert.
Last week, the team went out to find out what's going on with vaccinations. Utilizing state funding, Del Norte Mission Possible has been able to make vaccinations mobile and available to the houseless community.
When we've been able to take and purchase this bus to where we're going to be able to take vaccinations mobile to reach people where they are.
During their vaccination outreaches, showers, food, and clean clothing are available, in addition to medical professionals who can inform one on the finer points of vaccination. There is monetary incentive for the houseless to both hear about and be inoculated with a COVID-19 vaccine.
Our unique blend of relationship-based case management, where we have relationships with the unhoused population, and we're using that to remove barriers when it comes to vaccination.
The point of these outreaches is to make the facts available and the vaccine accessible to the houseless community.
We are averaging this is a 3-hour outreach here, and we're averaging about 20 vaccinations every time.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, which is incredible.
The COVID-19 pandemic has affected all of us, including our houseless community, which hasn't had access to the vaccine up until now.
Say they do it for the money, and I did not. I did it because the fact that this COVID thing took both my 2 mountains.
You can find Del Norte Mission Possible at Open Door Clinic on Tuesdays from 10 to 1 and at the Park City Superette on Thursdays. You can also find them on their Facebook page. This has been Sebastian for Redwood Voice.
And of course, to send you out on a good note, a double shot from Redwood Voice's most hyperactive reporter. No, I really love listening to Grant's reports.
He's very, what's the thing that my wife always enjoys when she's earnest. If you're earnest, Lisa loves that. And so, yeah, Grant's very earnest. And he's
earnest yet impassioned.
Yes.
Because he got to talk through his mask. Very responsible kid, wears his mask everywhere.
Yep. And only recently, as pandemic starts to sort of calm down, have I seen like Grant without his mask. And he just
he'll
looks like,
do it for RPG. I finally gotten used to it. Like last time it wasn't weird.
It's still weird for me. It's like, who is this? Put your mask back on. But so some of the reporting that happens, of course, in conjunction with Mike Thornton and KFUG Community News, it's just keeping the community up on changing or not changing COVID regulations and ordinances and what have you, all that stuff.
And so not changing is more surprising. This story he covered is actually about Del Norte when things were getting more lenient, not changing, keeping it to maybe where it should be. So like, all right, Del Norte.
Yeah. Actually, that is interesting too. That's the work of Dr. Aaron Stutz, our public health officer. But yeah, Grant. Sometimes you just sit down and you have all the information in front of you. You just got to write and record a story. It's not it's not sexy. It's not glamorous.
Pump it out.
You just got to get that information out there. That's what this first piece is.
A little more sexy, a little more glamorous. There is the Beachfront Mural project.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know much about that one.
Oh, okay.
The Mungers, right?
It's piece by piece, yeah. Harley and Jill Munger, they're just right up the road from us here. We have one of their pieces right out in front of the K-Fug studio. Harley's mosaic murals are all over town. I eat dinner from a couple of Harley Munger's bowls that I have that I got paid for photography I did for him once. And just a great organization, works very, very much working with youth through the high school and getting kids, at potter's wheels and baking ceramics and putting all these things together. Designing
fire and kilns,
all the lifting and toting of ceramic arts, but also the designing and just kind of visualizing what this piece of work will look like. They're working on a big mural for Beachfront Park. They just got a commendation from the city just this last meeting. There was a big thing thanking Harley Munger for his years of dedication to our community. And really, seriously, we have a lot of murals in Del Norte and in Crescent City. Overwhelming majority of them that you're going to find are going to be Harley Munger's work, from the harbor to Health and Human Services to where else can you find, all over the place, out to the high school. So we
local hotshot.
And we sent Grant up the road to talk to the people at Piece by Piece Pottery as well as Jill and Harley Munger. So,
and here's how that went right after guidelines on quarantining Unchanged in Del Norte County.
Double shot of Grant.
On Wednesday, Del Norte County Public Health released guidelines about quarantining in Del Norte County. The new guidelines say that if you've been exposed and are unvaccinated or are eligible for the booster shot and don't have it, you must quarantine for 10 days after last contact with someone who has tested positive for COVID-19 and take a test within 5 to 7 days of last contact. If you have your booster shot or are not eligible for the booster, you only have to quarantine if you experience symptoms of COVID-19. These guidelines are more strict than the recent guidelines released by the Centers for Disease Control. KFUG contacted Del Norte Public Health for clarification on the guidelines. We spoke with Program Manager Melody Cannoncuts. According to Cannoncuts, Public Health is continuing the 10-day quarantine period previously directed by the CDC instead of the recently implemented 5-day quarantine period. According to Del Norte Public Health, this is because of concerns over rising COVID cases in Del Norte and surrounding areas, and because of concern that the 5-day quarantine isn't long enough to protect public health in Del Norte County. According to Public Health, this is a countywide mandate. However, it may conflict with the Del Norte Unified School District, which currently has a less restrictive policy. As a DNUSD high school student, I've been told that the high school's policy is that we would only require students to quarantine if they have been exposed and hadn't been vaccinated.
You're listening to K-Fug Community News.
Crescent City has been working on expanding Beachfront Park. Part of that expansion is a new mural from Piece by Piece Pottery to commemorate the relationship between Crescent City and its sister city of Rikuzentakata in Japan. To tell us more about it, here's Harley Munger.
I'm Harley Munger. I own Elk Valley Artisans, or Piece by Piece Pottery, and Elk Valley Artisans are a nonprofit we work under. Well, we were approached by Eric Weir, who is city manager, about doing a mural for the city, and this was 4 months ago, I think. And we told him we would do it, and so after a lot of discussion and a number of meetings, Zoom meetings, we came up with this image, and it's for the sister cities that we have in Japan, and it has to do with the tsunami and the boat that the high school youth rebuilt and sent back to Japan.
The image Harley Munger mentioned is the outline for the mural. It is pine trees on one side to represent Rikuzentakata and redwood trees on the other to represent Crescent City. Both sides have their own lighthouse. In the middle, there are students holding the boat Kamome over the ocean to create a bridge between the two coasts. What does the process look like to make this mural?
We have 12 months to get this thing finished for the city. And first thing we do is draw the whole thing out. I took a bunch of images and blew them up on the wall over there while this was hanging over there. And I just sketched it in. And now we're breaking it down into tile pieces that we can use. Once we have it all sketched out in tile pieces, then we'll go over it again with another piece of paper and trace it. That tracing would be cut out with a pair of scissors. That will give us patterns for clay. We'll put it on the clay, and then we'll cut it out with some tools that I designed. It'll dry, bisque fire it, then we'll bring it back and we'll put all the bisque fired pieces on top of this here and select pieces that need to be glazed the same color, and then we'll glaze them, put them in the kiln again, and refire them. They'll come back to this pattern, and once all the pieces have been glazed, fired, then we do what we call compressing it. That's because the clay shrinks and our pattern has not. So everything gets shrunk down. This will shrink down about 8 inches overall. 8 inches in height, 8 inches in width. Once it's all back together, we'll tape it so nothing moves, and then we'll mount it on a backer board and plywood for the city. The plywood is 1.125" pressure treat, and we'll thin set our pieces to that. And the plywood will be mounted on a metal frame that the city will be making. And then the city will pick it up and take it and put it on behind the swimming pool. That's where they're going to be mounting it back there.
What do you want people to take out of the mural?
Oh, I don't know, just appreciation for a lot of hard work, I guess. It's just things we have in common. It's things we have in common.
Yeah. We do have a lot in common.
Yeah, it'd be real nice. If we could do something like this in Japan. You know, if we'd be able to come up with a grant and send Mr. Nunez here over there with this pattern, and they could do it over there, and that would be neat.
The exact same or different?
Do the same one. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, share the pattern. That would be real nice.
Out of this experience with this specific mural,
what do I personally
or
want?
You guys, the students too.
Oh,
the community.
The students, the kids who get involved have more. They buy into the community more. They have a vested interest in the community because it's theirs. And it's not something. It's not what I call refrigerator art, where you put it on a refrigerator and 2 weeks later it's off in the trash someplace. This thing will be around for 1,000 years. So, yeah, that's one thing about ceramic art. It's there forever.
Yep.
You know, painted murals, they'll go away in 15, 20 years, they're gone. These things here, you can bury them underwater and they still exist. So even if they break it, it's still there. You know, it's still there.
While interviewing him, Munger told us that high school students are welcome to join them in their project, but that the students will learn the basics on a smaller project before being able to work on the sister city piece. When in a meeting with the Del Norte High School Japan Club, he told them that they were welcome to join between 1 and 3 p.m. on Saturdays. Piece by Piece Pottery is located at 1130 Elk Valley Road. The front of the building has a custom Piece by Piece Pottery ceramic mural next to the front door. With KFUG Community News, I'm Grant Meriwether.
Well, so there you go. The some of the work that might slip through the cracks here at KFUG and Redwood Voice, because these were all done exclusively for broadcast, and broadcast, you just send it out on its way.
And that is just some from what I understand. I think there are some stories we didn't get to share. There are some stories at the end of this month. Very exciting stuff coming out that will hopefully be in the next anthology if you don't hear about it sooner.
Excellent. And to Sebastian, we haven't even told everybody who they are. It's Grant Meriwether, Monique Camarena, and Sebastian Monroe, along with Persephone Rose, who's the executive producer of Redwood Voice.
The Shadow.
The Shadow.
Big shadowy face. The underlings.
Minions, rise up. So it's great work. It's fantastic. We've got at the end of this next month, we've got a youth media conference we're all going to in Oakland.
I was wanting to find a way to work that in. We're conference bound.
We are conference bound. We're gonna meet and mix with, for the first time in 3 years, 2 years. When did we go to that last one?
I think it was actually.
Oh, it was like 2020. It was the beginning. It was right before.
It was a month before.
Oh, right. Wow. So at either end of the pandemic,
we have 2 years and a month.
2 years. We have the youth media conference happening, and so we'll take them down and introduce them to youth from all over the state who are doing like work from places like Indio and Richmond and Fresno.
I remember them the most. We talked a lot to them.
That's a big organization, actually, that was coming out of Fresno, yeah. So, big things happening with Redwood Voice, and again, thanks to the California Endowment for the funding. They have funded Redwood Voice the entire time that Redwood Voice has been a thing, which is like a decade now. And
long before we made it what it is.
Actually, I'm very proud of what we're making Redwood Voice and the experience that we're able to give these youth, as everything from engagement in the community to nuts and bolts journalism to just media content or content generation in general. So
the foundation was certainly helped, but I really like what we built on it.
So thank you, Grant, Monique, Sebastian, and mostly Persephone. Thank you for the work that you do for Redwood Voice and keeping this all going.
And of course, thank you for listening and making this all possible.
That's it, exactly. Without you, it's just two people talking into mics in a room all by
just
themselves.
A nice conversation.
Well, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
It's just a work meeting.
For KFUG Community Radio, I'm Paul Critz.
And for Redwood Voice, I'm Persephone Rose.